That night I swore I heard footsteps in the snow, but when I looked back all I saw were my own footprints, and a sense of emptiness I'd never felt before. When I decided to run to a cabin deep in the Maine woods, I knew I was signing up for isolation. Snow all around, total silence. Or so I thought. Outside, the wind howled like shattered glass, cutting through the night air, while the smell of damp wood and icy breath filled my nostrils. I could feel my skin prickle with the relentless cold, every breath crystallizing into a fleeting cloud in front of me. The dim glow of the fire cast twisted shadows on the wooden walls, making it seem like something invisible was watching every move I made. It was early winter, and all connection to the outside world seemed to dissolve within those decaying walls. The loneliness was heavy, almost tangible, and my heart felt just as frozen as the environment beyond. But that night, something shifted. I'm 34 now, and my life had become a grind of work, pressure, exhaustion. I wanted to escape it all, thought that nature, snow, and silence would bring me peace, a peace I'd long lost. I was worn out, carrying guilt that only grew, haunted by a recent loss that tormented me. Clad in a heavy coat, hands trembling, I stepped into the forest, carrying the faint hope of forgetting the world for a while. The frozen branches, the snow that seemed to soak more than it should, everything looked like the scene of a nightmare, too cold to be real. I heard the crunching of snow under my boots, the crackle of fire in the cabin's hearth, the wind outside, an endless whisper that sounded older than time itself. Every step in the snow crackled loudly, as if the ground itself was splitting apart. The moonlight reflected off the white surface, casting an eerie glow around me. A fine mist rose with the wind, brushing against my cold fingertips. The forest, usually peaceful, felt alive, heavy with a dense silence that almost choked me. The cold seeped through my skin into my bones. My breath turned into a slow, wispy cloud, and every sound seemed amplified in the stillness. There I was, on that thin line between peace and unease, when I realized something, that gut feeling I couldn't ignore. An unseen silent observer, something that seemed to watch every move I made, even in the deepest solitude. On the third night, as I closed my eyes, I swore I heard footsteps in the snow, soft, almost like someone circling around the cabin. I got up and looked outside, but saw nothing, just the untouched, silent snow. Yet that feeling lingered, like someone or something had passed through, unsettling my thoughts and stirring a growing anxiety I hadn't known before. Then I noticed marks in the snow, lines that looked forced, uneven, but that didn't match any human footprints. Like someone had been there, but without leaving clear tracks. The scent of melting ice and iron grew stronger, filling the air with something frozen and unyielding, like a presence hovering just beyond visibility. My fingers trembled harder, and a faint dizziness washed over me for a few seconds. That night, the footsteps seemed to follow every move I made. Every so often, a faint crack in the snow, as if someone was watching me from a distance, hidden among the trees. My breathing grew heavy, each inhale clouding into vapor that vanished into the cold air. My heart raced. It was as if the forest had come alive, and the silence, instead of comforting, had become a sentence of its own. In the darkness, I heard the constant creak of a floorboard, like someone walking around inside the cabin. When I turned quickly, everything seemed normal, until I peeked out the window. All I saw was a quick shadow slipping into the darkness, gone in an instant. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was just the wind, or my own anxiety playing tricks on me. But I had that feeling, a dizziness, a strange blend of cold and fear. My whole body tensed, my hands trembling as I clenched the flashlight tighter. Every sound was amplified, the wind slicing through the trees, the crackle of melting snow, my own breaths, all forming a macabre soundtrack. Deep down, I knew something more than my imagination was happening out there. Suddenly, I heard a sound that froze my blood. Quick footsteps, someone or something approaching through the snow. The tracks weren't human. They were strange, with an unnatural length and a bend that made no sense. My hand, holding the flashlight, trembled so much that the light flickered, casting distorted shadows all around. The feeling that someone or something was right there, very close, it was almost physical, a presence I could feel on my skin. The trees seemed obsessed with hiding me, and the snow beneath my feet began to crack in sharp, piercing sound that seemed to tear through the absolute silence. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. My body wanted to run despite the paralyzing fear, while the flashlight flickered with every tremble. Then, for a brief moment, everything went quiet, as if the universe had held its breath. And it was in that instant I heard a bang against my door, like someone trying to force their way in or pounding with all their might. My body almost didn't respond. I could only hear my own heavy breathing as the darkness seemed to press in all around me. My trembling hand slowly reached the doorknob, unsure if it would open to someone or to whatever was outside. The cold seeping through my clothes felt like fire inside my body. When I swung the door open with a hesitant move, snowflakes drifted onto my clothes, and everything around me seemed eerily silent. That's when I saw it. Strange marks in the snow, long lines that seemed to pierce the white, made by something neither human nor natural. The tracks led to a giant tree, and there, in the shadow, a dark figure flickered for a second, a silhouette shimmering with the wind, almost like a ripple in the very fabric of the cold. The smell of iron, the sensation of ice on my face, that shadow almost tearing my sanity apart. My heart pounded even harder. In an instant, everything became a frantic cascade of impulses. Every step I took felt like I was desperately trying to run, while the sound of cracking ice echoed from all directions. In the end, I realized this wasn't just a presence. It was an invisible threat, silent and aimless, like it wanted to entangle me in a web of cold and fear, with no clear clues left behind. For a moment, I stood there, frozen, staring at the shadow hiding in the tree. My body was paralyzed, like the cold had frozen my movements, or maybe my mind was trying to escape the reality unfolding before me. The snow around my feet looked darker than before, almost like frozen blood, reflecting the terror that gripped my thoughts. I wanted to run, scream, do anything to shatter that oppressive silence. But instead, I could only stand there, watching, as the shadow dissolved into the darkness like a mirage slowly fading away. Every breath I took felt like a last gasp before collapsing. Suddenly, the snow beneath my feet started to crack, a sound that felt like a warning, a sign that everything might shatter completely if I stayed just one more second. I felt my hands tingling from the cold, my eyes glued to the last silhouette that disappeared into the blackness. Then, in a move that was as sudden as it was frightening, I looked back, and everything was silent again. Totally quiet. No footprints, no shadows, just the vast empty white expanse. No trace that something or someone had been there aside from the snow marks which slowly vanished, as if they had never existed. For a moment I thought about running away, but my legs felt heavy, my body exhausted from fear. As I tried to make sense of it all, I realized that silence wasn't comforting. It was a threat in itself, a cruel game of appearances. When I looked into the frozen mirror of the window, what I saw nearly drove me mad. My reflected face was no longer mine. It carried an expression of complete shock, as if that cold had frozen something inside me too. And now, sitting there in the shadows, my heart still pounding, I wonder if all of that was just an illusion, or maybe a truth I haven't fully understood yet. The forest outside remains silent and relentless, hiding secrets that even ice can't keep buried. After all, what really happened that night? And will I ever truly escape? Or did my own shadow come rushing toward me, in the snow, to follow me? In the silent snow, what you don't see or what you try to hide, may still be lurking there, waiting in the frozen darkness. If this story sent a chill down your spine, leave a like, share with those who love mysteries, and subscribe to the channel. After all, in winter, silence keeps secrets that not even ice can freeze, and who knows what might still be moving in your vision when the snow is perfectly still. That morning, when I opened the door of my cabin, I found footprints in the snow, but I was the only one who had passed through last night. I've always thought the silence of the Quebec forest was sacred. There, it's just me, the wind, and heavy snow. But that day, everything changed. The sounds became almost non-existent until my attention was pulled by a line of fresh footprints crossing the porch. No one else was supposed to be here, or at least, that's what I convinced myself. I felt a shiver down my spine, that instinctual dread that something invisible had passed by silently in the early morning. Every breath turned into mist while the wind howled loudly, almost as if it were laughing at that heavy, threatening silence. My name's Laura. I'm 29 years old. I came to this remote forest seeking a pause, a silence the world can't give me anymore. My cabin is small, surrounded by towering trees, all covered in a thick blanket of white snow that seems to swallow every sound. The cold is brutal. A biting wind invades my home, making the walls creak under the weight of the ice. Inside, the smell of damp wood mixes with the slowly melting snow. The wind's constant, an endless howling, like messages from a world no one else can hear. My body feels numb, my hands trembling, and every breath feels like a battle against the cold and a rising wave of anxiety. Everything here is too silent, as if the forest itself is waiting for me to notice something it's hiding. When I opened the door the next day, my eyes immediately fell on the footprints. Large, displaced prints carving circles and jagged lines into the untouched snow. Like someone, or something, had passed through without me noticing. I stared, fixated, frustrated, and uneasy. Who's been here, moving around silently? Or has someone entered while I was gone? My curiosity took over even as my heart pounded. I decided to follow them. The footprints led to a narrow trail, which grew even thinner as it wound into the woods, hidden behind a low fog. The further I went, the stranger they became. Uneven, enormous steps, as if tiny giant creatures or some powerful entity was walking here. With every step I took, the wind grew stronger, carrying sounds from a distance, like guttural breaths or heavy sighs. My body felt colder, my hands aching from the ice, and an ongoing sense that I was not alone on this walk. I heard noises that seemed to follow my footsteps, the creak of twigs, the whispering of trees, all blending with my ragged breathing and the swaying heavy snow. Is this all in my head? Or is someone, or something, actually stalking me through these woods? The more I moved forward, the more bizarre the footprints became. Some appeared to reverse, as if someone or something was retracing its steps, or just messing with my mind. Suddenly, my eyes fixated on the footprints. Enormous, uneven steps that seemed to defy logic, like they belonged to some creature that shouldn't be there. They climbed a steep hill, cutting through the fog like marks of something desperate to catch me. My heart pounded, pure adrenaline, as if my life was hanging by a thread. The wind howled around me, carrying the sounds of breaking branches and heavy falling snow, like a silent carpet blanketing the earth. Every move I made felt like a desperate attempt to run, but my legs were heavy, clouded by a mixture of fear and exhaustion. What truly froze me in place was a moment when everything went completely silent. A heavy silence, almost as if the universe itself had taken a breath and held it. And in that instant, I realized those giant, uneven steps, far too heavy, weren't made by some ordinary creature. My whole body reacted instinctively, adrenaline or sheer instinct taking over, my fear mounting until it almost consumed my sanity. It was as if that thing was creeping closer, invisible, but making its presence felt through the wind. A threat locked in my mind, the kind that makes your skin crawl. At the peak of panic, a shadow slid across my vision. A silhouette, emerging from the darkness as if it was planning to pass right by me, or hide within the fog. My body tried to flee, but my legs refused to obey. It felt like a race with no escape, a frantic sprint against that invisible monster, one that maybe had never truly left. And then everything shifted into what my mind never wanted to imagine. The forest seemed to vibrate with an unseen presence, something that couldn't be seen but that I felt. A weight, a force trying to crush my soul. Nothing was the same anymore. The sense of an imminent threat, a force that left no room for doubt or escape, it settled deep within me, waiting for me to break, to surrender my sanity to that icy terror. In that moment, I realized that the real danger wasn't something I saw but what I felt, the fear, the silence, and that invisible presence now becoming part of me. Then I stood there, frozen on the trail, blinded by the wind and mist. That weight of the invisible shadow felt embedded in my skin, as if all that force was pulsating inside, eager to consume me. My heart hammered wildly, a desperate pounding blending fear and silent rage. By some stroke of luck or madness, I glanced back and as if trying to escape something that almost devoured me. And in that instant, everything returned to silence. The icy mist seemed to dissipate, leaving only my gasping breath and the weight of that presence lingering, lurking nearby. That shadow, which appeared almost like an illusion, vanished into the fog. But no matter how much I tried to cling to my sanity, the feeling that something was still watching me, waiting for the right moment to appear, grew heavier with each passing second. I kept staring at the endless white surrounding me. The snow seemed to hide ancient secrets, footprints that never fully disappeared. And one question haunted my mind. What, or who, had slipped through there in the dead of night? The only certainty is that in that stretch of forest, the footprints and the fog conceal something older, darker, and quieter than any fear I've ever known. Something that remains there, in the crushing solitude of winter, waiting. After that moment of utter silence, I looked back one more time. The forest remained still, the snow untouched and without any visible footprints, as if nothing had happened. But inside, everything had changed. I could feel a persistent presence, an icy energy that refused to fade, as if that place had been imprinted on me, an invisible mark that nothing and no one could erase. The snow was still falling heavily, cloaking everything around, covering up any trace of what my mind desperately tried to deny. And even with the silence settling in, a cruel doubt gnawed at me, pounding in my head. Was what I saw and felt simply the product of fear? Or was there really something in that forest, something that prefers to stay hidden, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself? Those footprints, the shadows, the feeling of being watched, all of it seemed like an ancient secret, whispered by winds that never stop howling through those trees. I tried to turn back, run away, forget, but deep down I know that it marked me forever. Because in the silent snow, the trace of something that can never fully be shown never truly disappears. It just hides among the white flakes, silently, waiting for the next person brave enough to listen to what the forest has to say. And you, have you ever felt that something invisible was watching you in the snow, even if you were alone? If so, leave a comment. And remember, in the solitude of winter, tracks that seem to vanish might in fact be waiting, in silence, just for you. That afternoon, for some reason, I felt like the forest had just vanished, as if the silence had become a living presence, wrapping around me completely, quiet, and almost swallowing me whole. My name is John. I'm 41. I decided to escape the chaos of the world, the non-stop routine, and found myself in a secluded cabin up north in Michigan. That dense forest, with towering snow-covered trees, promised total silence. The cold was piercing. The air smelled of ice. Every breath I took left a fog in front of my face while the wind sliced through everything. The wood of my cabin creaked softly, and the silence felt like a force slowly consuming me. It was that morning I realized something. When I stepped outside to explore the trail, I noticed that the silence was absolute. No birds, no rustling leaves, not even the wind. As if all life had disappeared. The footprints I felt in the snow, heard almost, seemed to hide inside my own mind. But when I turned to look, they were gone. With every step, the snow crunching under my feet sounded cold and loud, like someone or something was trailing behind me. My heart raced. That quiet, heavy silence felt like mockery. The footprints I'd thought I was hearing getting closer now vanished into the fog, disappearing as if the forest was playing tricks on my sanity. Suddenly, I felt a vibration in the snow, as if the forest itself was closing in, pushing me toward a place I couldn't escape. The steps pulling me, twisting and slow, grew heavier. My skin burned with cold, but my body also felt numb, almost melting under the pressure of an unseen force, something I couldn't see, but definitely sensed. And then, everything seemed to freeze for a moment. The silence became so absolute it almost suffocated me. I looked around, and the forest, quiet and unmoving, seemed to be watching me even in stillness. The footprints in the snow started to fade, as if it was all an illusion. In that silent snow, what was seen, or what was felt, maybe never truly leaves. Perhaps in the loneliness of the woods, silence hides secrets that even cold can't freeze. And you, have you ever stepped on snow and felt like someone was watching from somewhere beyond what's visible? Maybe, in the deepest quiet, what we can't hear is what really remains. If you've experienced something like this, share your story below. And remember, in the forest of silence, secrets don't scream. They just stay hidden, waiting in the snow.